Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rates and Lanes podcast. I'm your host, Rico Muhammad, and I am joined tonight, our special guest, the co-founder of NASTC, the National Association of Small Trucking Companies. David Owen is here with me, and look what the cat just drug in. I got my co-host back with me.
Oh my God.
Mr. Chuck
It's,
Snow.
Whoa. Sorry, guys. I had some technical difficulties.
it's about time.
So we good deal, Chuck. You got in right at the beginning of the show, right at the start. But I was introducing David. Wanted to give kind of turn the floor over a little bit to David to let him tell everybody about NASTC and some of the latest goings on at NASTC, and we'll just start the conversation off there if you don't mind.
Well, that's nice. And I don't grow tired of talking about NASTC. Uh, for people that don't know who we are, people ask me what we do or what NASTC is, and it takes me a minute to say anything, but to explain what we do is a little bit difficult. We're a for-profit association and buying group and advocacy group for small, full truckload, long haul, family owned, rural based trucking companies in the United States. Now, we do have a couple of companies, I think, in Canada, Chuck, but primarily we're not. We thought about doing a canastic, but there were some difficulties in it, so we decided to stay down here. Anyhow, we've been around. We started in 1989. The idea was that the big guys were gobbling up the little guys in full truckload carriage, and the conventional wisdom in 1989 was that there wouldn't be any small trucking companies in a few years. And Buster Anderson and I both had worked at Comdata for years and been very successful there, selling fuel and fuel cards and convoy load posting and phone and com checks, money transfers. And so anyhow, he left about a year and a half before I did, and I got kicked up to national accounts and started calling on the largest trucking companies in America. And it was an eye opener for me. And I really didn't much care for the mega fleets, and I really didn't much care for the way that the industry at the time, 1989, was treating small full truckload carriers. And I took some notes and started writing down how the big guys were doing it. And I said, heck, if I can get enough trucks and companies involved, I can emulate these same kinds of programs on a very high level, high quality programs, if I can get enough trucks and companies that the big guys are doing. And that's kind of how we got started. It was a miracle how I found Buster. Buster left Comdata a year and a half before I did, and I told my wife I was quitting Comdata, and she's a seventh grade school teacher. She started crying and she said, "What in the hell are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, I sure do wish I could get a hold of Buster Anderson." And that was on May 14th, 1989. And on May 16th, 2 days later, my wife got a call on our landline from a random telemarketing call from a guy selling carpet cleaning services, and his name was Buster. And she says, "This Buster Anderson used to work at Comdata, and he said he almost had a heart attack." He said, "How in the world do you know that?" Anyhow, I tell that story a lot because without that phone call, she said that I'm Bonnie, I'm David's wife. He wants to talk to you. And that's when NASTC got started, May the 16th, 1989. And if it hadn't been for that random phone call, if we'd have had a scam show back on the phones back then, or she probably would have never answered that call, much less talked to Buster. Anyhow, we started. It's a long story. We've been doing it 35 years now. It took us 4.5 years to show a profit, and We both starved to death, and the industry laughed at us for 6 or 7 years. Would call us two guys over a garage, which was probably pretty true. We didn't have any products to sell except we had ideas, and we knew. And I Buster would call them, and I'd go see them, and that was our business plan. He'd call them. I put 40,000 miles a year on my oh, we called my car old paint because the paint was peeling off the trunk. Anyhow, I got 70 companies to pay us the same fee that we charge today to become charter members of NASTC in 1989 in 6 months. And there was enough wind under the sails to where Buster neither Buster and I could quit. So we just kept doing it, and we were losing less money each month than the month before, and we did that for. Give you an idea of the sweat equity in the company. Buster Anderson left our bunker, which was I gave him an apartment in a triplex that I owned. He lived there, and we ran NASTC out of it. We called it the bunker. And Buster would leave the bunker every Friday about 3:30 in the afternoon. I gave him a car called Black Beauty. It was an old 78 Impala that had a dent in every panel. All 5 of my kids had wrecked that car. Anyhow, he would leave our bunker at 3:30 on Friday afternoon and go to downtown Nashville and work 32 straight hours at the Hall of Fame Hotel as a night auditor. He did that for 6.5 years. Anyhow, we got a little traction. We couldn't afford to, whatever we came up with, whatever program or plan or something that we came up with had to cash flow immediately because we didn't have any money. But we started getting some traction, and drug and alcohol testing came out for small companies in 1991, I think, and we started doing that. We had a little itsy bitsy fax machine, one of those Japanese fax machines that rolls out the toilet paper you can't write on, it disappears. We got our first drug screens on that, and anyhow, we started doing drug testing. We started doing fuel tax analysis. Do you remember how Chuck? How convoluted fuel taxes were back then. You had to.
Oh my God, those little bingo
This
cards.
was before single state registration.
Yes.
Where you had every quarter you had to figure out how much fuel. If you ran in 32 states, you had to have a fuel tax account with every state. You had to fill out a different return for every state. You had to figure out how many gallons you'd bought in that state and how many miles you'd run in that state. Then you'd have to take out the toll roads, and it was a mess. And you would get debits and credits. If you bought more fuel and less miles in one state, you got a credit, and if you bought less fuel and too many miles in another state, you had a debit. And the states were notorious where they'd charge you all the debits and wouldn't give you any of the credits. Georgia, I remember Georgia was notorious for having cheap fuel, but you couldn't get your credit. So if you bought too much fuel in Georgia, it was just out of luck. You're almost better off going on into Florida and paying more for the fuel because you knew you weren't going to get the credit back. Anyhow, we started doing fuel tax analyses. And I'm not kidding you. I don't believe we found an expert at that, a guy that was really good at that. His name was Dick Hetland. And Dick could go into any trucking company, I believe, at that time, and within about 30 minutes show a trucking company owner where he left, even a guy with 5, 10 trucks, where he was leaving $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a quarter on the table in credits or misdoing the calculations. And that was kind of where we got started. Today, long story short, we're due. Our Frank Sinatra, as you well know, Rico, is fuel. We've got the most dynamic fuel purchasing scheme in America, I think, for small companies anyhow, who need a network, irregular route running for small, long-haul trucking companies. And we have an insurance agency. We help people get insurance. We help people get their authority. We have a management safety program that is kind of a risk managing program that has like 12 elements in it. It's dynamite. It's crazy how good that is, and how much we're getting the data back now to prove that risk management program is really producing very buttoned up, safe, small trucking companies in our group. And we've got fuel, and we do drug testing administration for
Right.
5,000 people. We have proprietary software to run a trucking company from one truck to 1,000. And we've got, as at the first of the year, we have 15,132 companies that are members of NASTC now. And our fuel program for the last quarter, even though it was a little bit down because business was a little bit down the last quarter, as you probably know, we still averaged 46 million gallons of diesel fuel a month.
Wow.
For all 3 months, and which equates to about 460,000 fuel transactions a month, which gives you some idea of the volume that we're doing in fuel.
Excuse me, David, can you just, I hate to interrupt, but this is just for our listeners that aren't familiar with NASTC, can you just share with our listeners how much they can save? And most of them are 1 to 5 trucks, but the savings are pretty severe. They're substantial.
Well, I'm going to do this, Chuck. I told David I was going to do this, so I wanted to make sure that that I had his permission before I did it. So I didn't want to do it without talking to him first. But I'm getting ready to put up one of my last invoices. Can y'all see that?
No, I've just got a blank screen here, bud.
Oh, that's all I've got too.
Hold on a second. Let me go back in and.
It may have been canceled. Maybe Homeland Security isn't going to let you show those numbers.
Let's see here.
The big oil companies, they don't want to show.
This could be dangerous.
Let's see if I can get the technical part of it right. I was gonna try to pull it up and share it. How about now? Are you seeing anything or no?
I'm just seeing the 3 of us.
Yeah,
just seeing the 3 of us. Okay, well, it may not be able to get it on there, but I'll say this part. I bought diesel fuel on. This was one of my latest invoices on 2/17. Bought here at the Petro, Carnesville, Georgia. If everybody knows what Carnesville, Georgia, if you travel up and down 85 and you've been through Georgia, everybody knows where that Petro is. The price on the street for the diesel fuel at that time on 2/17 was $4.49 per gallon. I bought 141 gallons that evening. So the gross amount that I ended up paying total should have been $634.83. But my discount through NASTC got me $107.79 off of that total bill. So I only ended up having to pay $527.04 for that.
That's substantial.
For that fill up. And that's just one truck.
Yeah, and you think if you just listen to that Rico, that's an anomaly. And of course that used to be an anomaly, but it's not an anomaly anymore. I'm going to give you a couple of numbers that'll blow your skirt. Last year in 2022, we delivered over $300 million, $300 million in discounts.
A third of $1 billion.
Right. Back to the companies on our fuel program. And now we don't set margins. We kind of sit on the sidelines. We make pretty much the same thing on a gallon of diesel fuel. It's usually a penny and a half, something like that. It varies from market to market, time to time. But the truth is, the truck stops set the profit margin. All of our deals now are cost plus.
Right.
All of our information is transparent. You can go on our fuel app, Rico,
That's right.
And you can see what you're going to pay for fuel in a route you're getting ready to go on, and you can even cherry pick our program and go to the cheaper stops. Um, and the the dynamic of over the road diesel fuel changed when Flying J went broke. Okay, Flying J was the largest, was the leader in marquee price diesel fuel for years, and they were trying to gain market share by very competitively pricing their marquee price, which they could afford to do because they were a vertical company. They owned their own pipelines, their own refineries, their own trucks, and their own truck stops. So there were no middlemen in the process. So they could put a price of, let's say, $2.50 a gallon out there, which equated to, if TA were putting that in the ground, cost plus 3 or 4 cents a gallon.
Sure.
But because they were vertical, it was cost plus 12 or 14 cents a gallon. So everybody in the small trucking community either went to a pumper location where they were pricing their fuel at cost plus 3 or 4 anyhow to get people to come to their stops, or they went to a Flying J where it was the equivalent of cost plus 3 or 4. So TA, Petro, Loves, the Independents all had to follow Flying J's lead and keep their prices down and their margins down and competitive. Back then, when Flying J was flying, uh, the average spread on a gallon of diesel was less than 6-7 cents. Actually, back then, diesel fuel was almost viewed as a loss leader to attract trucks into the truck stop, so the truck stop could sell some food or a shower or some other amenity or a belt buckle. And But the dynamic changed drastically when Flying J got in trouble and they got trapped in their own verticality, so to speak. And I don't know if you remember it, but fuel never goes down for 14, 15 months straight, and it did then. And what Flying J kept waiting to see was a correction in the marketplace where the cost of a barrel of oil would come back up, and it actually went straight down from I think from like $128 a barrel all the way down to $37 a barrel, almost in a straight line over 15 months, and it never corrected. And that's what broke Flying J. Well, thank God that Pilot went out and bought Flying J.
Right.
And they paid about $1 billion for Flying J. Well, I was thrilled to see somebody buy Flying J, because we needed the parking, we needed the truck stops, we needed the fuels, we needed all of that. And we still do.
Desperately.
But the Pilot, after they bought them, said, hey, we're going to get our money back. So instead of pricing the fuel at cost plus 4 or 5, they slowly but surely escalated the margin in a gallon of diesel fuel to where diesel fuel was no longer a loss leader, it was a profit center. And because we never capped discounts, that's when we went viral. When the marketplace started having fuel margins of double digits, people like you, Rico, said, my holy cow, look what these guys are doing. I've only got 2 trucks, and I'm buying at the level of a guy with 200 trucks.
Sure.
And that's what happened. And it's still happening. And I hope it continues to happen forever, because I'm a big advocate for small, the S.
You really are. You know what, David? You walk your talk. I've watched you in action. Number one, you walk your talk. Number two, you are as passionate about this industry as a lot of us are, and you really care. And you shared an article with me the other day when we were chatting about autonomous trucks. And my God, man, you were so spot on. And Rico and I have had several debates through the years about autonomous trucks. And you know what, my feelings, which I've shared on this show a number of times, are still the same. I think that I do think that the technology that is gained from inventing autonomous trucks is phenomenal, and it's going to keep trucks very safe and keep the motoring public safe. But I am not an advocate of putting an 80,000 pound piece of machinery on a highway and letting it go, over my dead body.
Well, Silicon Valley has sold the American people and maybe even the Canadian people a bill of goods with this artificial intelligence argument. I don't know. I've had Dr. Ben Carson at my conference twice now.
You're right.
An absolutely brilliant neurosurgeon, successfully led a team that disconnected two twins that were joined at the head. And he, in one of his deals at our show, he talked about all the processes that went through for a person to reach up and scratch his eyebrow. And he went through the neuro systems, and it took him 5 minutes.
Right.
It was amazing to hear this genius talk about everything that happened to reach up and scratch your eyebrow. Now, when you talk about a computer, there was in that article, there was a quote in there that some outfit made the claim, oh, we all know that computers make far less mistakes than humans. Well, I've never heard such an absurd comment.
I agree.
I mean, if you're not making some mistakes, you're not doing anything, number one.
Learning.
But the truth of the matter is, our brains are doing billions of things that we don't even know they're doing every second.
Yeah.
And to think that I'm not going to share the road with an autonomous vehicle of any kind. And I hate to think that we're so naive as to watch the carnage. Well, the thing that happened up in Ohio with the train.
Yeah.
Look at the ripple effect of all of that. And,
yeah.
and look at the mystery now. Those people in that small town don't have a clue whether they need to pack up and leave and never come back or desert their town. Or what should I do best for my child who's 10 years old? Is he going to have cancer at 25 and we don't know it? I mean, really. And the government, I just saw on the news tonight that our transportation secretary was going to take dead aim at getting right on top of that. It's 3 weeks old, maybe more. It's about time he said something about it. I hadn't heard a word out of him until today.
Yeah, politicians kind of like to hide, either jump off the ship or hide when we have tragedies like this. And, it's an environmental tragedy, so we don't know where it's going to go. It goes into the water table. It can pollute dozens of towns. It's not just East Palestine, Ohio. It's a whole bunch of towns that share that water table.
That one truck hit a pothole behind a truck island, and the water comes off the side of the deal down there and runs into a creek. Let the EPA get on that. That company will lose millions of dollars sopping up that creek. And here you got a 7-8 car derailment with chemicals going out. Where is the EPA? Where is the?
We're looking after the truck that went off the road on Interstate 80 and spilled some diesel fuel. That's where they are.
And these are the same people that want to put everything we haul on a truck very efficiently, very safely, all day, every day, all day long. And they want to put it on the rail. You could put Chuck, you could take all the hundreds of thousands of loads that you do and put them on a train. It'd take a week to get there instead of a day. And at the end of the day, it wouldn't make but about 1% penetration in what we need to get moved.
Yep.
I was talking to Alan Lund, who you know.
Oh, yeah.
He made that comment. He said, I said, what about rail? Are you guys worried? He said, David, by the time the produce gets there on a rail, they can't even, number one, they can't do it. Number two, if they could do it, if they could get it there in time, it's and they put all the pro, it still would make about 1% penetration in the market. It's kind of
Yep.
like saying that ethanol or corn is going to solve our fuel problem. It's, these guys are, they're smart people. I don't understand how, maybe I just don't get it. I
You
don't,
can't
I
grow
don't,
enough
I
corn.
do not understand the world I live in today.
Well, you know what? You couldn't grow enough corn to run all these trucks.
I want to jump back in here for a second. I need to do a little bit of housekeeping. I neglected to do at the top of the show. But ladies and gentlemen, if you find any of this information that we're talking about and sharing with you guys tonight, please like, share, and subscribe to the video and to the channel. NASTC is, like I said before, I put the link up. You can see the link right there. National Association of Small Trucking Companies. Go check them out. We don't really sell anything here on this podcast or nothing like that. And I'm a member of NASTC, and I shared with you my information as far as the discounts and stuff that I get from the fuel. But not only that, like David said, if you're getting started, I had the fortunate experience to when I was driving trucks, of course, for a company that shall remain nameless, and I was making the decision that I was getting ready to start my own. I was going to go ahead and buy my own truck and get my own authority. So I had been driving trucks for a while, probably about 10 or 12 years at the time. Had been driving trucks. Was going to start my own company. Was doing in the research process, trying to find out all the different stuff. Of course, came across some of the influential people that had an effect. Came across Kevin Rutherford, of course, on XM Radio. Learning all the information as far as how to properly spec and buy a truck, what you need to be looking for, pulling ECM reports, all that good stuff. Had no clue previous to then, but like I say, in my endeavor to find out information, started looking at different things, going to different message boards and stuff at the time, just to show you the infancy of the internet at the time, and came across some people that was talking about fuel discounts and stuff that they was getting from NASTC. And I was like, man, that kind of, my antennas went up. And I said, man, I need to find out about this company because here I am getting ready to get started. I had now, here's a full backstory. I had previously was leased on to another major carrier that everybody knows out there that leases people on out there in Missouri. That'll remain nameless as well, but but I was leased on with them initially, and I was driving. I knew how to drive a truck. I knew I had endurance. I could drive a truck. Man, I could drive all night and tomorrow. And driving the truck wasn't the problem, and the reason that I went out of business the first time when I was leased on to the carrier. It's a totally different thing of driving a truck versus running a business. And if you're going to run a business, you need to understand all the different things that we try to talk about here on this show. And the biggest thing is being able to. It's not about how much you make; it's about what you can keep. And NASTC is one of those companies that can help you. You add them to your toolbox. I would strongly recommend you go get involved with NASTC because they have a different suite of programs that you can get involved in that can actually make running your company a hell of a lot easier, a hell of a lot better. One of the things that definitely with their programs that they get you set up for, and if you get with them from the beginning, when you get ready to go through your audit, your first audit, they have great programs that can help ensure if you follow the game plan and the methodology that they have laid out for you, you will pass your initial audit with flying colors with no problems. I was so nervous when it came time for my audit when they called me and told me that they was coming out to do my audit. But with all of the stuff that we had set up when we got done with NASTC and everything, with the information that they set up for, because at the time, and I'm not even sure if they still do this or not at the time.
Oh, we're doing it on steroids now.
At the time, me and my wife at the time, we both went up and we got trained on how to do the drug testing.
Actually, not the test itself, but start the collection process.
Right.
How to be a certified collector,
exactly,
so that you're in control of the whole process from beginning to end. And it's so much superior to what anybody. We're big on that, and it's made huge differences in our numbers of we do drug and alcohol test administration and training, just like you went through, for over 5,000 companies.
So that's
We
one
we
of the
have
great
we
things.
have nobody, maybe one or two companies over the limbo bar on that basic in CSA. Nobody. If the DOT comes and looks at you and audits you today, and they see our logo on the drug testing, they go to the next thing. We do it exactly right. We don't and we're big. That one little thing. It sounds little. It's not little. But for a small trucking company today, particularly, it's huge because of certified medical examiners and
Right.
the fact that you've got to go maybe 15 miles to a collection site. If you have a post accident or a random, it's hard to do if you don't. But if you could start the chain of custody right there in your office and control the thing from beginning to end, there are no mistakes. You almost eliminate uh, substituted specimens, for instance, on a random.
Yep.
Because the driver doesn't have the opportunity to, you're doing it right. It's just you're turning the barrel. I need some urine. Go to the bathroom.
Yep.
Anyhow, that's
Dave,
just
what are you hearing on speaking of drug testing? Because you're one of the things about NASTC. It's one of the many things. You guys are lobbyists as well, and you've really got your ear open to everybody in Washington D.C. And what are you hearing about, number one, hair testing?
well, it kind of comes and goes, Chuck. You'll hear a lot about it for a minute. Uh, I think that the whole drug testing community is being challenged because of legalized marijuana, quite frankly,
Yes.
and fentanyl and opioids. So we got a lot going on out there as far as drugs are concerned, even not just with truck drivers, but with our populace. Um, so hair testing is not hair testing is going to be a boondoggle. It's
Okay.
not. And I don't have any. I really don't have any problem with FMCSA allowing larger companies to do hair testing if they want to do it that way.
Right. So
What
they're
I
going a step beyond.
what I don't want them to do is say, okay, everybody's got to do it this way,
Right.
because the infrastructure is in place for small companies to have a very high level, 99.9% compliance rate with the existing regulations. And to change the whole infrastructure to hair is not only it's not productive. The other thing too, I think it, and I don't know, but I think it opens up a real bag of worms for lawsuits and fraud and a lot of things that that on the small rural based level, I don't think our guys can handle much. I think what would happen if they did mandate hair testing for everybody, all the small carriers would have to join a big consortium, and then they would lose control of their drug testing program. And I think it'd be a giant step backwards, like so much of what our central government ends up doing, not because they're trying to, they're well intentioned, but generally speaking, when they get involved, bad stuff happens. Look at CSA; they're bringing CSA back up again, and
Oh my God. It's a
CSA
nightmare.
is
Like,
well, it's been a boondoggle for can you believe 13 years?
yeah,
13 years,
I
and they
know.
and they still. They're still telling how many small trucking companies they put out of business with completely erroneous, unscientific, unsupported data. And we've gone to them and proven it time and time again, and they completely ignore it. The central government will not ever admit they made a mistake.
No.
Now, I am proud of them. They did finally get so much grief about this. The last time they looked at CSA, they said, "Well, if we do I don't remember what it's called, a more rigid data dive and
Right.
get all these points of data." Well, all they were talking about doing is adding a new agency and another 100 people and all this complicated crap, and they still could. They wouldn't have gotten there. They did forget that after they looked at it and said, "Wait a second, what are we doing? What
Yeah,
are
I
we?"
know. It's a mess. It really is.
And anybody that's ever tried to data queue something,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. It's very, and you're right. out of pure default, NASTC has become the voice for small full truckload trucking companies
Yeah.
because there was a vacuum there. Nobody else was doing it. TCA doesn't do it. ATA could care less. Matter of fact,
No, because they don't represent the people that you represent, the people that listen to this show, which is really the backbone of America.
You're right. Without small full truckload family owned businesses through the pandemic, I fear we would have had a lot of trouble. A lot worse. It would have been a lot. I think they saved their bacon. I think they're heroes.
They are. They're definitely heroes.
Getting back to that autonomous truck thing, and I've said this in the article that I wrote that you alluded to. I love to ask my drivers of the year at the annual conference, how many lives do you save and how many accidents do you prevent weekly, monthly, yearly? And of course, there's a wide range of answers because that's an impossible question to answer to begin with.
Right.
But most of them will say, well, I think I prevent probably at least one accident a day. And one accident a day. I think I prevent one accident a day. So put that in your fucking waggle, as they used to say, and compute what that means in saved lives.
Yeah.
And our industry, this is a little timeline of data. In 1975, there were from 1970 to almost 1990, 95 even, the raw number of fatalities in the United States from big truck accidents with cars was over 5,000. Pure number. It was over 5,000. In 1975, the number of fatalities per 100 million miles driven was 6.5. 6.5 per 100 million. FMCSA came along and they did some good work. Granted, we started getting rid of the double logbooks and everybody carrying two licenses.
Well, all of it, it all helped.
We cleaned. There was a lot of good things that happened in the 90s and around 2002, 2003. We dropped, now listen to this number. We dropped the real number of fatalities in big truck and car crashes from 6.5 per 100 million mile drivers to, and I think it was 2005 or 6, it started going down. It got down to at the beginning of 2006 or 7. I'm doing this without notes. It was 1.9 per 100 million miles driven. 1.9, and a real number of about less than 5,000 for the first time in the history of trucking. It was about 4,800. But it went down the next 4 or 5 years to 1.3 fatalities per 100 million miles driven. And the real raw number went from over 5,000 for 20 some years down to 3,400. Wow. It hit a low mark at what year do you think? 2010.
Right.
When CSA came out. And it's clicked back up to over 4,000 now. Yeah. CSA has not solved problems, it's created problems. It is broke. It can't be fixed. The last time we got dug down into it, it had been changed 800 times. 800 changes. It first came out as comprehensive safety analysis. They found out it couldn't be comprehensive because for small guys. One of the guys actually made the comment, these little guys don't have enough accidents for us to measure.
Right.
Don't have enough accidents for us to measure.
Right.
Now, listen to that. So
safest trucks, safest probably the safest trucks on the road is the smaller companies.
100%.
That's a guy's bread and butter. That's
the
how
safest,
you make that's how you make your living.
The safest and most profitable business model in full truckload, long haul truckload is one guy, one truck, one trailer. Period. And it's not even close, Mohammed. Not even close.
Because you know what? In all fairness, you take the plight of the mega carrier. They've got 5 or 10 or 15,000 trucks, and they got to keep warm bums and cold seats. So a lot of them, what they do is they have training schools, and the trainers aren't even, the trainers have 6 months experience. That's the problem. You get the single truck operator, and I've met enough of them through the years, and lots of them have 5 or 10 or 20 years experience before they went out and bought a truck.
Absolutely.
And they have to, especially in today's insurance market, they can't, if they don't have a pristine driving record, they can't dream of getting their own authority in insurance.
Do you know what? And Rico, I don't know what you're paying for insurance, and I don't want to know. But we have an insurance agency here in NASTC Insurance Services, and we're helping guys with less than 10 trucks, non-fleet businesses, get very good insurance coverage, very, very good insurance coverage. And I don't think we ever failed to save them premium dollars. Particularly if we get their authority for them on the get-go and get them off to a good start, keep them from making any of those fatal errors, they get there faster. But we've got guys that come through the new entrant survival training class, and it makes me physically ill to see the numbers that they're paying for insurance today. And the people that come through you alluded to our management safety program, the 12 element, it's really a risk management program that we've developed over the years, and it's dynamite. If you do those things, or even a few of those things, whatever fits your niche. Do you know what? I've got over 5,000 trucks in that program now, on our management safety program. Do you know what their aggregated loss runs are? Aggregated loss runs for over 5,000 trucks. A loss run is the
how many
percentage of claims to premium. Okay, right. So if you $100,000 in premium, and you got $65,000 in claim, your loss run's 65%.
Right.
What do you think our aggregate loss runs are for those 5,000? Well, we don't have all 5,000 of those on MSP in our insurance, so we can't measure them. But the ones we can measure, what do you think their aggregate is? Loss run.
I bet you it's like 5. I bet you it's like 5%. If it's
9%, one single digit.
Yep.
And some of those guys are still paying in excess of $20,000 a truck for insurance.
Wow.
How do they stay in business? I don't know. We
can't
save them enough money on fuel to keep them in business.
Yeah. There was a time during the last 3 years of the pandemic, they could easily afford the $20,000 or $25,000, which is what some of the insurance companies were charging new entrants. Because the rates were high enough. But now the rates have gone down because things have leveled out. They've gone back to pre-pandemic freight rates. And now these guys are, that's why so many of them are trying to get out of it and get rid of their trucks and go back working for somebody or leasing on with the carrier.
And that's one of the biggest things. Like I was alluding to earlier. I want everyone that's tuning in, that's listening. reason that we have David on, we definitely, like I said, I'm a member, but I want to share information. The purpose of this podcast is to help put tools in your tool belt to make you a better business person, one. And if we can share information with you that's going to put money back in your pocket, that's two, because those are the critical things that you need in order to stay in business. And NASTC is one of those companies that you need to have a relationship with because of so many different offshoots that they have for you to offer. If you just take advantage of the different things that they have to offer, the fuel program being number one, of course, it's the star of the show. The fuel program alone will pay for your membership. Number two, they have brokers that we talk all the time about getting relationships. Chuck won broker of the year. What, last year? Was it last year, Chuck? Or
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Chuck won broker of the year 2 years ago. We talk all the time on this show about relationships. So if you take a chance and you go to the NASTC convention, then you go start and meet people that develop relationships. You get to see people in different parts of the industry, and they have all kind of different vendors and stuff that are there that can get you exposed to. Just like if you were to go to the Mats or Gats or any of the other trucking shows, but this is a little bit more intimate. You get a chance to get around some people, exchange some business cards, exchange some ideas, and get some things going back and forth, and to develop something that you might be able to take back home to your company and develop it and maybe refine it a little bit to your situation and your operation,
100%.
and make something better for yourself. So these we, like I said, we try not to have, we don't want to come across or salesy or anything like that. But this is a company that you definitely, I feel like you definitely want to get involved with, that you want to have some exposure to. You don't even have to take, and I'm gonna boldly say this in front of David, you don't necessarily have to take advantage of everything that they have to offer. He's his job. He's gonna tell you about it. But if it doesn't fit you, by all means, do what fits you. But definitely,
One of the things, Rico, that we really work hard to do. Number one, we're not a trucking company. We don't have any trucks. We don't have any drivers. We don't broker any freight. We work real hard not to ever get into the business of trucking, but and we throw our menu of ideas out there and our programs that are well thought out and well developed, and all we want you to do is give them a shot or see if they plug into your niche, plug into the way you're viewing your drivers and your company. And I'm not kidding you. I've been doing this now 35 years, and I'm convinced that I'm right about this. The key to success, getting a small trucking company airborne and making it profitable. And I'm talking about not just getting by, not just making a living. I'm talking about operating in the 80s and the low 80s sometimes. I'm talking about really making some serious money out of a truck. The key is the drivers that you put behind the wheel. Period. And if you can build a trucking company that is safe, that can afford to go to full facility truck stops and treat their drivers well and give them amenities, that you've got good AAA insurance. You're not cutting corners there. You start beginning to attract better paying freight. Brokers like Chuck here that'll put decent paying freight on the back of your truck, where all of this together, the sum of the whole is so much greater than the sum of the parts. It's not all of a sudden, instead of there being a driver shortage, or you feel like you can't get good people behind the wheel of your truck, why try to grow if you can't trust the driver? All of a sudden, you've got a drawer full of people that can't wait to drive for you.
And not only that,
those companies.
Speaking on that relationship part, like I say, it's a big deal, because if you get that relationship, especially if you get to develop the relationship with the brokers, if you get a chance to meet some of the different brokers and you can develop that relationship, you're going to get a chance to insulate yourself to get away from having to run everything off of a load board, and it'll insulate you to better paying freight, that you don't have to worry about calling or whatever, because you've developed a relationship, and NASTC can, like they want part of your every year they update it, of course, but they send you out a whole little packet with their brokers and all that stuff in there.
We have a best brokers directory. We have about 165, and Chuck Snow is one of our premier best brokers. Okay, and he has been for how many years, Chuck? 20.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But I can honestly say, to my knowledge, not one NASTC carrier has ever lost a dime dealing with one of our best brokers.
It's true.
We had one best broker that got in financial trouble, and the guy wasn't going to be able to escape chapter 9, 11, 7, or whatever it was. He called me and he said, "Listen, I'm sorry. I can't get out of this. Let everybody know. I want to make it right before I turn to pull the plug." And he didn't necessarily, I think it's illegal to move people to the front of the line, but he made darn sure that our guys didn't haul any more loads with him, because he was, and that's the only, and then that did help them get to the front of the line as far as the brokers mob. So even the ones that had lost some money from that bankruptcy got some money on a dollar back from the bond. So I'm real proud of that part of, and we've been constantly for years trying to figure out how to get more NASTC trucks in front of more best brokers on a regular daily basis. And it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do, but the relationship part is so important. And I'm proud of most of the people like Chuck and you, and most of the people that I have relationships with, Rick Gobble, Hank Seaton,
right,
Ken Baker, Dr. Carson, Governor Huckabee. I mean, those people I've got relationships with for years. Derry Stewart on maintenance, Richard Bell on accounting, Kathy Dazzle, who founded Ansonia Credit. These people, like Chuck, are very, very successful, very, very at the top of the industry, one percenters. All of them are at the top of their game, and they all love what we've been able to do, because truthfully, and I say this with all the humility I can muster, nobody else has been able to do what we've done. We took a fragmented group of irregular route carriers and put them in a group that probably represents now well over 100,000 trucks. And like, you're not trying to make money with this podcast. I'm not in the trucking business. Right. I'm in the business of trying to help these guys figure out how to take their operating ratio from the low 90s to the low 80s. How to add trucks if they choose to without it breaking them. How to introduce them to better people to drive their trucks, and how to introduce them to better brokers and shippers and get better paying freight.
You even do more than that, David. You know what? When I think about who else has a lobbyist in Washington representing the small carrier, really representing the small carrier. There's no hidden agenda with NASTC like there is with a couple of other organizations, which let's say they're nameless right now. But you guys I've met your lobbyist. Great guy. I had dinner with him one night.
Well, before him, Hank C. Hank and I have spent hundreds of nights sharing a hotel room because we couldn't afford to have separate rooms in Washington, up there talking to before FMCSA was even formed. NASTC has been representing small full truckload regular route carriers, all of them, not just NASTC members, all of them for 30 years. We're a for-profit association. I'm a small business just like you are. I spend $500,000-$600,000 a year every year in Washington. I would use the word advocating rather than lobbying because I don't like the word lobbying because we're not really lobbying. And the other thing too, at NASTC, I don't like people that come into my business and tell me, hey, we can do it better than you've done it.
They can't.
We can help you. We can help grow your company. We can do this. We can do that. We don't tell NASTC members that. Here are our programs. They're well thought out. Here are some people like Rico who can say, yes, these are good guys and this really works. You ought to try it. But beyond that, you're right, Rico. They don't have to do squat. Matter of fact, I tell the story when we first started, I'd get the guys would at the end of the day would say, well, young fella, what happens if this don't work? What if you can't give me a return on my investment? You going to give me your money back? I said, no, sir. I am not in the habit of giving. I'm not going to give you your money back. As a matter of fact, I will probably never come see you again because I can't afford it.
I think
just try this, and if I don't give you a return on investment, don't renew next year.
Well, I think that the monthly membership cost is somewhere like around $40. I think to get started.
That's for the whole program. The annual fee for NASTC membership for a guy under 10 trucks, I think, is either between $250 and $350.
Yeah, I think it's $250, $40 a month. And like I just talked about on my last fuel discount, just one fill up, and I fill up probably twice a week. But the discount that I got was $107.79 on that one fill up. So like I said, it pays for the membership is going to pay for itself automatically.
You don't have to have your own authority. You could be leased onto a carrier and still be a member of NASTC.
That's right.
Yep.
I've met several people through the years that were leased on with Landstar and some of the other big ones in the U.S. that were members. I met them at the conventions, met them at the truck show.
So I just wanted to kind of say that as a closing point, as I'm looking at the time, we're getting close on time, and David has been so gracious with his time to kind of stick around there at the office to wait on us so that we can broadcast. I tell you, I appreciate it, David. I can't thank you enough for sticking around. But if you don't mind, as we get ready to close out, how can people? I've got the website posted right there on the screen. People can go to the website www.nastic.com, National Association of Small Trucking Companies. How other than going to the website, is there any other information that you would like to leave with us?
Absolutely. I'm real proud of the fact that our 800 number, we get between 12 and 1,400 inbound calls a day, Monday through Friday. Our 800 number is 1-800-264-8580. It's 1-800-264-8580. A real person will answer the phone. You won't be put on hold. And if you want to talk to me, you ask for David Owen, and I'll be the next voice on the phone if I'm available. If I'm not available, no kidding, they don't.
This is real.
You call and ask for David Owen. They won't say, "Are you a member? What's this about? Who are you?"
No.
It's a one moment, please, and then they'll say, "I have a caller wishing to speak to you." And I take all my calls, and if I'm not available, you can leave your callback number, and I call everybody back.
And he does.
I mean, that way I don't have to remember anything, and but I get to talk to some of the worst telemarketers you ever heard in your life. Anyhow, but that's the way we roll here. We live real person, and they'll answer the phone and say, "Thank you for calling NASTC. How may I help you?" Or, "This is Deborah speaking. How can I help you?" And that's it. That's the way we do it. 1-800-264-8580, or go on the website and send us an email.
Yep. So I appreciate it once again, David, for being so gracious with your time, coming on the show, talking to us, telling us a little bit about NASTC and some of the other things that are coming down, going on in Washington and all that stuff. I do got one quick question. I don't know if you can answer it or not before I let you out of here. Big headline that's going around about BP buying out the TAs and the TAs. I don't know if you know anything, heard anything as far as how that's going to affect anything, but just thought I'd ask you while I had you here.
Well, I've been on the phone with the people from obviously from TA Petro. The announcement was made a couple of days ago, and in today's world, you can't let stuff leak like that. They're going to be that deal will not be closed probably until mid-June or July. So there'll be a lot of information about that. I think, from all I can tell, that it's not going to impact our program in any negative way whatsoever, and I think it's going to be very positive. But I'm not in the oil business, I'm not in the refinery business, and I'm not in the truck stop business. So,
right.
But I will say this: the people at TA Petro have negotiated a very attractive deal for them, I think, and their stockholders, and I think it's going to be a positive thing. But my God, man, you start talking about oil companies and banks and stuff like that. It's way out of my over my pay.
I feel like we probably would be remiss if I didn't at least ask you before I let you go.
Well, that's about all I know, and that's about all I know. And that's about it. Not that that's all I can say, but that's about all I know, really.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I completely understand.
Are you guys going to be at Mid-American Truck Show?
Yes, I'm going to be there. Actually, now, I'll say it publicly here. I have retired from Traffics. I sold my shares last April, but they've asked me to work the booth at Mid-America. So I'm going to be down there again, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all my friends down there. And
I think we're all just can't wait to get back into some kind of normalcy. I'm really excited about. We've got a booth for the first time since COVID back at Mid-America. We're going to be there too.
Well, that's great, and I think we're going to be right down the hall from you because we were before you guys before COVID. So maybe we'll run into each other and even get to have a coffee or maybe even dinner one night.
Well, I'm gonna get it. I know I'm getting up there. I'll be a Thursday, Friday, and I'll have to come back Saturday. And I know I am having dinner with the TA folks on Thursday.
Wonderful.
Good deal.
Or the BP folks, whatever you want to call them.
Well, once again, David, we appreciate you for taking time out to come and hang with us and talk with us. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
David, thanks again. Really appreciate it.
I enjoy doing this.
Well, we enjoy having you.
Yes, sir, David. Appreciate it. You have a good evening. God bless you.
Take care.
God bless.
Well, Chuck.
Well, if anybody needs to get a hold of me, I'm actually going to give you folks a new email address because, I may have to give my email address back to Traffics because sometimes I get these calls. They're looking for something. And I'm not on my computer all the time. So best way to get hold of me now, write this down, boys and girls, but I will repeat it every week. It's chucksnow280@outlook.com. Send me an email, whatever you need. Put your phone number on it, and I will get back to you, I promise. And with that, Rico, I'll let you back her in the hole for another week.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you got some value out of tonight's program, out of the show tonight. Like I said, didn't want it to come across as a real salesy thing, but I just wanted I'm kind of passionate about NASTC because they definitely save me money each and every time I pull up to get fuel. And when I'm running my fuel, and when I get those invoices the next day, and I see how much money I saved, it does something to me. I'm definitely appreciative of it. I can't tell you how much money it saved me over the course of the year. So hopefully,
you know what? It's the fuel and it's everything else. I have to, and I'll share this with you and our listeners. We looked at it for Traffics, and because we had enough trucks, we could do better on our own because especially when we had to buy some of our fuel in Canada. So that diminished. Right. When we run to Chicago, you have to remember that half the miles are in Canada. So it didn't quite work because they didn't have a program for us. Now, if we were a carrier that ran a lot of California or something all the time, but a lot of our miles were Toronto to Chicago. But we made a lot of money being a member of NASTC because of the connections we got as a member, the connections we got from for our fleet, from brokers we met there that wanted to do business with the Traffic's fleet, and the connections we got from carriers that wanted Traffic's to load them, because Traffic's wears two hats, mostly the broker hat, but there is a fleet element to it. So even for those carriers that are listening that may be too large for whatever reason, or because of geography, maybe they're located up in Canada or whatever, it didn't work for them for fuel. There's other benefits, and it won't cost you anything, and you'll make money on it.
Absolutely. So like I said, I just wanted to, I didn't want it to come across super sales, and I didn't want Dave, but I just wanted to share that with people. And this thing is about putting money, keeping money back in your pocket.
Oh, yeah.
And like I say, it ain't about how much money you can make. It's about how much you can keep. And this is definitely one of those situations where the fuel discounts, and just like driving, if you slow down, that has a direct correlation right back to your bottom line immediately. The immediate outcome of having that fuel discount goes right back to your bottom line, because that's money that you didn't have to spend. So, hopefully you guys got something out of tonight's program. If you did, please tell a friend to tell a friend about the show. Share, like, all that good stuff on all the different platforms that we are on. We need your help. We're asking your help to please help us grow the platform. Tell a friend to tell a friend about the show. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, because you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you took a little bit of time to hang out with us, whether you listened to us or tuned in live, or you're checking us out later, as all these shows are recorded and archived. We definitely appreciate you. We are eternally grateful for you doing so. God bless you. Good night. Be safe out there, everybody. And as always, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise.
Catch on the flip-flop. God bless.
Good night.
Good night.